Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I would call off the engagement if he doesn't stop hanging out with my father because of a situation that happened with my ex? Original post. I, 27 female, have a complicated relationship with my dad, 55 male. He wasn't a bad father, but he's been a terrible husband. Growing up, I constantly found my mother crying because my dad had cheated on her again. He'd cheat, she'd lash out, he'd crack jokes to lighten the mood, which made her even angrier. Then within days they'd be back to normal, until she'd catch him cheating again. I resented my father for this, and my mother somewhat for tolerating it so much. After college, I returned to living with my parents until I could figure my finances out. I met a guy I really liked and he would come over to my parents' house most of the time. He and my dad got close pretty quickly. They would hang out together a lot, going on fishing and camping trips together. I thought it was nice that my father and my boyfriend were getting along so well until I overheard them one day talking about their latest adventure. From that conversation, I realized their trips weren't just about fishing or camping. They were picking up women together. Essentially, my dad was encouraging him to cheat on me but just be discreet about it. They tried denying it, but I wasn't fooled. I broke up with him immediately, and my relationship with my dad got even worse. I moved out some months later and rarely visited. My apartment was only a 20-minute drive away from my parents. But even then, I visited just a handful of times, mostly because of my mother. Now on to the current situation. I met my fiancé, 26 male, some months after my last relationship, and we dated for a year and a half before he asked me to marry him. I'd already introduced him to my parents and they'd met a couple more times. He knew about the situation with my ex and why my relationship with my father was strained. We got engaged a month ago, the week before Thanksgiving. When I informed my mother, she begged us to come spend Thanksgiving weekend with them to celebrate. She used the fact that we drifted apart so much, and my fiancé convinced me, so I agreed. On the first night after dinner, my dad invited my fiancé to go out on the porch to drink beer and chat. My mom and I decided to join them. The conversation was mostly about their mutual love for football. After an hour or so, it got tiring, and I wanted to sleep. My mom had already gone off to bed. When I told my fiancé, he told me to go ahead and said he would be with me soon. I felt very uneasy about leaving them alone, but I didn't want my fiancé to feel like I was monitoring him. My fiancé accidentally woke me up when he finally came to our room in the middle of the night. When I asked him why he was coming to sleep so late and what they were still talking about for so long, he replied, "Football, of course." I didn't press further. All weekend they hung out constantly. My fiancé helped my dad with chores and ran errands with him. When I brought it up, he said he was just being polite. Fast forward to yesterday, my fiancé casually informed me he would be going on a camping trip with a friend. This isn't the first time he has gone camping since we got together, but I got suspicious because he became evasive when I asked who he was going with. When I pressed, he finally admitted he was going with my dad. Apparently over the weeks after Thanksgiving, they stayed in contact. They'd even gone to watch a football game together without me knowing, because my father said I would make a big deal out of it. I lost it and told him absolutely not. I reminded him what happened with my ex. He said I was being paranoid, that my dad was cool to hang out with, and had never mentioned anything about women. He said my dad didn't force my ex to cheat, so I couldn't keep holding a grudge. That hurt very much, in addition to the fact that he wouldn't cancel the camping trip like I asked. So I told him that he could either stop hanging out with my dad or I would call off our engagement. He got upset and accused me of trying to control him and said that the fact I think my dad can influence him means I don't trust him. We've barely talked since yesterday, as he keeps giving me the cold shoulder. I don't want to be the kind of woman who controls who her man hangs out with, but I feel like I set a clear boundary from the very start regarding my dad, and he knows how it makes me feel. Sorry for the long post, but I felt that the context was important. Am I the a-hole for giving him that ultimatum? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, but I wouldn't bother with the ultimatum. What is particularly concerning here is that your fiancé is already lying to you and sneaking around behind your back. You're trying to maintain boundaries with your father, and your own fiancé isn't respecting them. He's showing you who he really is, so believe him. A good man would not be lying to you. A good man would not be sneaking around behind your back. A good man would respect your wishes regarding your family. You can't trust this guy, and if you keep dating him, it's only a matter of time before he's out cheating with or without your dad. It sounds like the dad almost likes to groom them into becoming cheaters. I imagine he'll do the same with this man and will continue to try this with every partner OP ever has. My view is that dad is doing it deliberately, so he can say, "See, all men cheat. I wasn't the a-hole. It's just what us men do." Your fiancé is putting his bromance with your father above your comfort. He is already lying to you while embracing a habitual cheater. Is this what you want for your future? Reenacting your parents' dysfunctional marriage? Not the a-hole, unless you accept the disrespect. Oh, he'll cheat on her. Absolutely. OP needs to go no contact with her parents and her fiancé. Now for the update. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. I read every comment, but I couldn't reply to any because it felt like I was reading what I already knew deep in my gut. So I did not break up with my fiancé right away. Pathetic, I know. This is a man I'd been with for almost 2 years, and we'd never had any major fights until now. I wanted to wait to see if he would understand where I was coming from and decide to cut my father off. But 2 days later, he was still giving me the cold shoulder despite my attempts to talk it out. I forgot to mention in my original post that my fiancé did say that it wouldn't be just him and my dad. His friend would be there too, so I didn't have to worry. But I think that's beside the point. What broke the pathetic bubble I was in was when a text came through his phone while he was in the shower. It was my father's number, and it said, "Has she cracked yet?" I finally understood that my fiancé had been giving me the cold shoulder to make me relent, and he had no intention of canceling the trip with my dad. Something broke in me, but it wasn't anger. I took off my ring and placed it on the nightstand. When he came out of the shower, I calmly told him that I needed him out of my apartment by the end of the week. He again tried to point out how unreasonable I was being, and how it was turning me into a controlling woman. I told him I didn't want to control his life, which is why I was asking him to leave. That way, he could be free to be friends with whoever he wanted. But I can't be with someone who doesn't respect my boundaries and thinks there's nothing wrong with associating with someone who hurt me so much. He changed his tune very quickly and said he would cancel the trip and stop talking to my dad if that would make me happy, but he didn't want me to leave him. I have to admit that I was tempted for a second, but I managed to stand my ground and told him I didn't want to be with him anymore. Then I left the apartment and drove to my parents' house. My calmness disappeared there as I ripped into my dad for being a POS of a human being, for constantly cheating on my mom and destroying my relationship again like he did before. I didn't expect a shred of remorse, and he gave none. All those who commented that he does this to prove a point were right. My dad told me that if I expect to find a man who'll be satisfied with just me forever, then I am living in a bubble. Men are designed to want variety every once in a while. I pretty much expected that, so I wasn't shocked. What broke me was my mother agreeing with him and telling me that I would never find the perfect man. Because all men cheat, but what's important is that you're the one he loves and comes home to at the end of the day. In my previous post, I mentioned being somewhat resentful toward my mom as well for taking so much crap from my father, but I had never looked at her and felt the disgust I felt in that moment. I calmly told her that wasn't true. She might have resigned herself to being with a POS, but I know I deserve so much better. I told my father I don't care if he disowns me, takes me out of his will or whatever. I don't want anything to do with him ever again. And I told my mom that I loved her, but until she gathers enough courage and self-respect to leave my dad, I don't want anything to do with her either. Then I left their house and drove to my best friend's house, where I proceeded to break down into pieces. Sorry if the write-up feels choppy. I've lost 2 of the people I care about the most, and it hurts like hell. But I also know that I have to put myself first for once after all the crap I've put up with. Like most of you, my best friend also suggested therapy, so I'm going to look into that. P.S. I know legally I owe my ex-fiancé a month's notice. He moved in with me 7 months ago, but I don't think I can stomach it for that long. Hopefully he'll leave within the week and not make things difficult for me. In the meantime, I will be staying at my friend's house. Thanks so much for all your responses. It comforts me a bit, even when I feel so crappy. not the a-hole. Wow, your father is a piece of work, and your mother is enabling him. Good for you for leaving that toxic stew. I hope you find a fulfilling life far away from all of these people. Thank you. Cutting my mother off hurt because I've grown up feeling so sorry for her and being there for her when she cried over my dad's cheating. So now she's going to be more alone than ever. I just pray this will make her realize her mistake and leave my dad. I would welcome her with open arms. OP, you did good. Disappointment and betrayal always hurt in the beginning, but after some time has passed, we will see that this whole situation was actually a blessing in disguise. Your ex showed you exactly who he was. And yes, therapy for sure. When a person has unresolved trauma, the tendency is to keep attracting the same trauma into our lives. You will find the right partner. To be honest, until the comments on my first post, I never realized the pattern. Maybe I've been looking out for douches because both my first two relationships, high school and college, ended with me being cheated on, though those had nothing to do with my dad. I never thought I needed therapy, and neither did I believe in it, but I will surely give it a try. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my best friend take advantage of me? My best friend Diane and I have known each other since elementary school. Diane is dating Roy. He has 2 teens who stay with him half of the time. I'll refer to them as Diane's stepkids. Now on to the issue. I'm getting married in 6 months. My fiancé lives in another state, and I'll be moving to live with him. I own a condo, fully paid off, and I'm keeping it so I have a place to stay when I come back for work, meetings, and visiting family. My fiancé also has family here, so I estimate we will be back here every other month, more or less. Diane agreed to hold an emergency key in case maintenance needs to access my condo. I thought I had everything settled until 2 weeks ago. Diane and I met for lunch, and she said she had a proposal for me. Her stepson goes to college near my condo. She said it would be good if her stepson condo sat for me. That way, I wouldn't have to worry about the place when I'm not there. He would pay me a small stipend each month to cover any wear and tear. He would stay with his father whenever I'm in town. She said it would be a win-win situation, as I would be making a little bit of income on an apartment that would otherwise be empty. In a split second, I imagined all the liabilities I'd be exposed to by having a very social college kid living unsupervised in my home. Coming home and having to clean up behind him, complaints from neighbors, and my poor bed. Nope. Honestly, just the idea of anyone living in my home when I'm not there is unappealing. So I thanked my friend for the idea and told her I just didn't want anyone living in my condo. I wanted to be able to come and go as I pleased without worrying about it. She kept pushing the issue, telling me why it was a great idea, while I kept telling her no and explaining why. Finally, she said that on the basis of our friendship, would I at least think about it overnight? I told her that she was basically asking me to take on a tenant and all the financial and legal responsibilities that come with it. So if she truly believed this was a good idea, she and her boyfriend would have to sign a contract making them financially responsible for any and all liabilities. She asked why she had to be on the contract. I said I was only asking of her what she was asking of me. She got quiet. I told her to think about it and get back to me. Roy later called me and said he would be willing to sign the contract. I said Diane would have to sign it too, as she is the only reason why I am even considering it. I then explained to him why I wanted to keep the apartment empty. He told me Diane came to him with the idea and said she would talk to me about it. He wouldn't have bothered with it if he had known the full story. It was a pleasant conversation. The next day, Diane called and said that I embarrassed her to her boyfriend. I told her that if she had just respected that I was not interested in her proposal, we would not have had this problem. Am I the a-hole in how I handled this? Not the a-hole. You may want to change your locks though. She already has a key and might give him access anyway. Like, I thought once you could see how great it is, you wouldn't mind or would change your mind, or something. I didn't give her the key yet. I was going to hand it over closer to when I moved. I do not plan on giving her the key anymore. Without a contract, you could be in for all sorts of shenanigans like squatters' rights, etc. If Diane really wants to pursue this, she should want to pursue it in a legally sound manner. Your initial response of no tenants was solid, and your alternative solution makes sense. You want to reduce your risk as much as possible. You told Roy the same thing you told Diane, so if anyone was embarrassing Diane, it was her for not telling Roy all the details, not the a-hole. She tried to say that he wouldn't be a tenant, he would be a condo sitter, so I would not be liable for his actions. Ha, she changed her tune when I brought up the contract. Not the a-hole. It all makes sense. You trust her, of course, but she's not living there. A young college boy is living there, one you don't know very well and don't trust very much. If they won't agree to you protecting something you worked hard to acquire, then you shouldn't rent your home to a college tenant on faith and trust. I wouldn't do it either. She said she would make sure he kept the apartment clean, etc. But what would happen if she broke up with Roy? Then I would be stuck basically supplementing someone else's college kid. If she was truly planning to make sure he kept it clean and maintained, she wouldn't have a problem signing the contract. She doesn't live with them. She isn't his mother. She has no leverage to make him do anything. All she could do is talk to Roy about it. And if they broke up, she couldn't even do that. Not the a-hole at all. You said no multiple times. She kept pushing. And the second you put actual responsibility on her, suddenly it wasn't such a win-win anymore. She's only embarrassed because your contract suggestion made it clear she wanted you to take all the risk so her stepson could get cheap housing. And what is funny, the stipend he offered to pay is only 25% of what the rental value would be. It would not even cover the monthly maintenance charges. Even if you were inclined to do this, I would heartily advise against having it be a cut-rate amount of money. Full rent, assigned lease, by Roy and the son, and nothing less will do. But I think you should not do this deal at all. It's not going to happen. This entire interaction soured our friendship.